Come here. Welcome back to Langrisser 4.0 News from the Future, featuring part 2 of the October to November hero, Emperor Lovinar. So, yup, this is future Aerys, and he's holding on to his own Langrisser, the red Langrisser. So, apparently, this is future self when he became king in one of the roads. I'm not sure if this is the true ending path or not. So okay, I did not play Langrisser. If any one of you does, feel free to leave it down in the comment sections below. So right, Emperor Lovinar will be featuring his talent at rank 6. So right, the talent will be known as Elysian Grand Strategy. So right, number 1, increase damage by 7%. The maximum is capped at 35% for every unit who are standing 3 rings or circles around him. Then number 2, at the end of the turn, able to deploy or allocate 2 different allies' positions and increase Emperor Lovinar's own movement speed by +3. This movement speed will last for a turn. So right, the cooldown of the skill of deploy and allocate is 4 turns after casting before players can use the skills again. So okay, let us repeat again. So okay, apparently it's very straightforward, 2 parts. I like it. However, the CD is kind of long. There is definitely plus and downside. So right, number 1, increase damage by 7% for every unit who are standing 3 rings or circles around him, and the maximum is capped at 35%. This is very great or very good. It's quite we're trying to retain something similar from the original Aerys. It seems like the original Aerys combination with Leonhardt AoE skills into his talent. They're trying to integrate these 2 things. So for every unit, so allies or enemies alike, as long as they're near him, they are 5. The cap at 5 or less, you will have damage increment, the maximum at 35%. So the more characters there are on the field, the more damage he can do. So he's definitely more of a speed running PvE or PvE characters, PvP or PvE, where you want to speed up and finish the game, because well, he'll be at his best when there are many allies or enemies on the field. Number 2, at the end of a turn, able to deploy or allocate 2 different allies' positions around him and increase own movement speed by +3, which will last for a turn. So okay, the movement increment, his movement increment or speed increment will gain a +3. Then the effect will last for a turn. This apparently is a very good plus thing, because it increases his mobility by +3, and of course this to have some synergy with his own skills, which will be coming to it very soon. So stay with me, guys. So again, at the end of the video, I'll be sharing with you the summary of the skill that I've done myself and rough translation of the skills. Okay, the downside is that the CD of deploy or allocate is 4 turns after casting before, well, players can cast or use it again. So this is definitely a downside. It has a very long cooldown. So it's definitely go for rush play. Once you cast this skill, you definitely want to go in for the kill before anything happens, because 4 turns is definitely very long. He do not have a self act against skill. So apparently that's not a very good news or great news. Okay, now we'll be finally moving on to his faction and skills. So faction, his protagonist, strategies. Oh gosh, I hate this. And of course from the reincarnation faction. Oh yay. So his initial path is warrior. So you have Sun Slash, physical attack, target a single enemy, deal 1.5 times damage. After battle, recover 30% of his HP. And okay, he got 1 revive skills. When receiving a death blow attack, recover HP by 20%, trigger once every battle. Then alright, to his Emperor path. So this is his first path. Second class, Swordsman. So again, he has Sword Dance. So it's a mini AoE, 1 ring AoE. Do 0.36 times AoE damage to enemies around 1 ring around Aerys or Emperor Lovinar and cause them to not be able to heal, lasts for a turn. Right, the third class Emperor path. So this is his new skill. So it's known as Flying Slash. So it's not Air Slash but Flying Slash. Physical attack. Okay. Has a CD of 2, range 2 is a single target, so it's kind of an upgrade version of Air Slash. Attack a single enemy, deal 1.4 times battle damage. If your own mobility is greater than enemies, you will attack first. Then after battle, recover 20% of the damage dealt as HP recovery. And if you bring close combat units, they will attack together, or they will process an attack with you together, and these skills will not receive close combat penalty. So alright, let's repeat again. So re-summarize again. Number 1, attack a single enemy and deal 1.4 times battle damage. Number 2, when mobility is greater than enemy, your characters will attack first. Number 3, you will heal back 20% of the damage dealt after the battle. And number 4, close combat units will attack together with the skill. And these skills will not receive close combat penalty. So definitely pretty awesome, I'll say. Then now moving to his Conqueror Rider path, I guess. I think I'll just stick with Conqueror Rider or Conqueror Knight. Okay, so second class Conqueror Knight, and he has Swift Battle Tactic. So passive effect, so when unit's HP is at 100%, increase defense by 10%. When initiating attack or actively going to battle or going to attack, you obtain two squares or tiles, chance of moving 2 squares or tiles, and this skill will have a cooldown effect of 1 turn. So okay, basically you can cast the skill and you can, after attacking, move 2 squares or tiles. I gotta be honest, I got slightly confused, and apparently I don't think it's that great, because after attacking you just get to move 2 squares or tiles. That is not very helpful. Again, I may be wrong, but you definitely got a combo. I mean, it has great synergy if you're trying to process with his allocate talent, which has a 4-turn CD. The only way is you just move back 2 squares or tiles, and you maybe transfer your tanker like Hilda to protect yourself, which based on his playstyle, he seems more like a rush player, so you might not be taking tank into consideration except for PvE matches. So not a skill I like. Okay, the third path, so okay, the Conqueror Rider King, so is finally a new exclusive skills. Okay, it's a faction buff, so this is known as Promise of the Ark, and the type is a faction buff. It has a cost of 2 and a CD of 3, and congratulations guys, we are getting our second protagonist faction buff, or second useless, almost useless faction buff, and I will tell you why. Okay, so here we go. After casting the skills, increase all allies who are of the protagonist faction, increase their offensive and defensive stats on the field. Number 2, when entering battle, increase damage deal by 12%. Number 3, whenever allies are 3 squares or tiles near their own Emperor Lovinar, increase damage deal by an additional 5%. Okay, the faction buff will last for 4 turns and won't stack with other buff. So I'm gonna repeat and let us re-summarize again before we discuss about why I gonna say it's almost useless for now, or not so useful. Okay, maybe I'm kind of harsh. Okay, number 1, after casting the skills, increase all protagonist allies offensive and defensive stats on the field. That's definitely great. Number 2, when entering battle, increase damage deal by 12%. Number 3, whenever allies are 3 squares or tiles near own Emperor Lovinar, increase damage deal by additional 5%. The faction buff lasts for 4 turns and won't stack with other buff. So, okay, I'm not trying to pour cold waters on fellow protagonist greasers here. Okay, so apparently, number 1, casting the skill increase all allies offensive and defensive stats. That's a usual buff effects. That's definitely great. However, number 2, when they say going into battle, when going to battle, increase damage deal by 12%. So apparently this faction buff is forcing, or it's only giving great advantages to your allies who are using skills that require you to go into battle. If you recall on my last video, his sister, Maiden of the Ark, aka Licorice, are from the protagonist faction. So she has both single target and AoE skills, and her advantages are based on the AoE skills. So apparently she is not receiving the second part. Then third, whenever allies are 3 squares or tiles near their own Emperor Lovinar, they'll increase damage deal by an additional 5%. And of course, having additional damage deal there is great. However, the condition is kind of harsh. So allies have to be near, not just among allies themselves, but based on your own caster, which is Emperor Lovinar, to gain the 5% additional stats. This is basically kind of a rip-off or improvised. No, I'm not going to say it's improvised. Apparently it's like a rip-off from Wet Ham 3C of Summoning the Sword. So instead of global effect, you switch to the effect have to be near allies. 3 squares or tiles, there's a limitations. And the worst case scenario is that have to be near Emperor Lovinar, and that means he has to be alive. So unlike Wet Ham 3C, where you just, well, you can choose if you want to place the sword at a safe position or distance away from enemy, so he has a little chance of, you know, getting killed by enemy. For Lovinar case, if you look at his skills and talent, apparently you definitely need to use him to go for battle. So there's a high chance that he will die, and you guys will not be getting this additional 5% effect. And not only that, before we proceed, I'm just gonna give you this is not definitely not spoiler, but his 3C is a AoE skill. But the faction buff additional effect is a plus only when you battle enemy and go into battle. So apparently when you fight enemy and go into battle, you gain the deal additional 12% damage. So this has no, out of 3, so 3 effects out of the faction buff, you're losing out on 2 if you intend to go with his 3C, or your other characters intend to play AoE skills. So this is just it's kind of a should I say oxymoron relationship. It's just kind of it's not having a very great synergy among the characters. It's kind of biased towards characters with single targeting skills and against players with AoE skills. And alright, and this is the next sad news. Apparently for 3C, yes. Sky Dominus Hegemony, I'm gonna go with that. It's an AoE physical skills, has a CD of 6. The cast range is on Emperor Lovinar himself. So basically it's like Rachel's AoE where you cast the skill and the skill is unleashed from your position, except the range is very little. Okay, here we go. Number 1, deal 0.44 times AoE damage to enemies who are 2 squares or tiles around you. Number 2, cause enemy to not be able to heal and get a debuff, a shock debuff. So the shock debuff effect are as follows. For every step move before attacking, they will take the caster attack of 0.5 times attack as fixed damage. The maximum is capped at 3 times and it will last for a turn. Number 3, after the skill is released or unleashed or cast, obtain the following effect. Damage received will be reduced by 20%. Now, second, increase allies' attack and intelligence by 10% who are 2 squares or tiles near the caster. This effect will last for 2 turns and is undispellable. So, okay, so apparently the AoE is only enemies who are 2 squares or tiles around you. It's not even in like 2 circles, and you can just imagine the range is definitely very short. You can't hit too much enemy, and that's definitely cause for Balance Blade to increase the range to 3 squares or tiles. So let's re-summarize again. So number 1, deal 0.44 times AoE damage to enemies who are 2 squares or tiles around you. Number 2, cause them to not be able to heal and get a debuff, a shock debuff. For every step they move before attacking, they'll take the caster attack 0.5 times attack as fixed damage. The maximum they cap at is 3 times. The effect will last for a turn. Number 3, after releasing this skill, it will cause the caster to obtain the following effect. So the first effect will be damage received will be reduced by 20%, and the second will be increased allies attack intelligence by 10% who are 2 squares or tiles near the caster. So basically you kind of gain a temporary attack command aura effect and some damage reduction effect. So I get it, it's the damage is high, 0.44 times, but the range is kind of short. You might consider using Balance Blade for greater range but lower damage, or maybe Blood Sword for additional follow-up of fixed damage, or well, any weapons that can provide you with much more attack. Because based on his Rider class or his Warrior class, you'll not be able to use Scarlet Blade, so nope, not be able to combo with that. And yep, he'll be getting a new unit, Robo Dragon Rider. So increase attack and defense by 25%. When entering close combat, reduce physical damage taken by 25%. So basically this is the opposite of the Angel units. Angel has magic reduction effect, while this has physical damage reduction effect. So it's kind of It's definitely going to be strong, I guess, but it just feel kind of plain to me compared to the new units released on SP11 release. Yep, it's kind of weak in my perspective, I guess. So right, we have come to the end. Apologize if I do not do the presentation well, and remember to like and subscribe my video. Watch to the end for the translations. We'll see you guys on the next Langrisser 4.0 news from the future, and I will upload the trailer of PV for Emperor Lovinar and Maiden of the Ark, which will include the Echo of Light. So remember to like and subscribe. This is Kami. We'll see you guys on the next Langrisser 4.0 news from the future. Goodbye.